Dominic Greenwood knew the situation well. He had something he valued, something that belonged to him, but Richie had taken it away. If the older brother couldn't take something by force, he would destroy it. The rest of the family always sided with Richie. After all, Richie was the golden child, the blond-haired son, who, in the family's opinion, could do no wrong. "Enough!" Mindy Duran giggled merrily, playfully slapping Richie on the arm. "What?" Richie smirked. "So, this is that sharp knife college, right?" "Dominic, tell him he's wrong," Mindy protested, still giggling. "Uh-huh," Dominic replied, not hiding his irritation. "Mindy, he knows it's Whittle College. He's just messing around." "Dominic!" snapped at Big Bill Greenwood. His graying eyebrows knotted in anger. "Don't call your brother." "All right, Dad. Whatever you say," Dominic snapped back. "Oh no, sir, don't give me that whatever, young man," Big Bill bellowed. "Whatever you say, bye," Dominic said, turned and headed for the door of the Greenwood house. "Dominic Greenwood, get back here," Big Bill barked, enraged by his middle son's behavior. "Mindy, are you coming?" Dominic sighed. His long hesitation and the look Mindy threw at Richie told Dominic all he needed to know. Shaking his head one last time, he walked out of the living room. Dominic didn't go up to his room to get his suitcase. There was nothing in it that was important to him. To catch his girlfriend, whom he had been dating for 2 years, in a passionate embrace with his older brother was a painful shock. He quietly walked out of the library before Mindy and Richie noticed him. Monica Greenwood, their sister and the youngest child in the family, saw Dominic and, like everyone else, took Richie's side, smirking at his embarrassment and pain. Dominic didn't hear Monica gleefully inform Mindy that he'd seen their passionate embrace moments ago. He didn't hear Big Bill declare that Dominic should just get over it. Mindy was free to choose who she wanted, and it was obvious that she had chosen the better man. Dominic could chuckle at his mother's snide statement. "A better man? A better man wouldn't try to seduce his brother's girlfriend, would he?" The smile never left Dominic's face, even as Richie laughed mockingly and said, "Try?" There was no tryst. I offered to sleep with her and the little slut replied, "Okay." Dominic would take no pleasure in Mindy's shocked sigh or pained sob, nor did he feel the urge to comfort his former friend. During the nearly 14-hour flight from Degard, Louisiana to Broken Field, Kansas, Dominic had plenty of time to think. He and Mindy discussed marriage, shared future plans, goals, and aspirations. Mindy had recently graduated with a bachelor's degree in business administration, and Dominic was on the cusp of earning a master's degree in electrical engineering. He planned to work for Triangle Carter Incorporated and help Mindy find a job with one of the oil companies or other industrial companies in and around St. Elizabeth Parish. The only obstacle to their happiness was Ann Duran, who insisted on getting to know Dominic's family. He begged Mindy to elope with him to Las Vegas or Mexico to have a wedding anywhere but meet his family. "You know what? It's a lot cheaper to break off an engagement than it is to get a divorce," Dominic decided as he pulled up to his apartment in Broken Field, Kansas. There was no word from Mindy. 2 weeks later, Dominic boxed up the few belongings she had left at his apartment and brought them to her parents' house in April Springs, Kansas. When her father asked where Mindy was, Dominic gave him Richie's cell phone number. "Thanks a hell of a lot, you whiny asshole," Richie snapped at Dominic. Some asshole called, looking for his slutty daughter. Dominic disconnected the call and quickly blocked Richie's number. After a little thought, he also blocked the numbers of Big Bill, Monica, and their mother. At the local Savewell phone store, he bought a new cell phone and number. "Dude, where's Mindy?" Martin Reilly asked, spotting Dominic at Brick's Pizzeria enjoying a medium supreme pizza. And, hey, tried to call you last night. Whittle tore up the Pioneers, man." "Yeah, man," Sanchez Indigo added, trying to grab a slice of Dominic's pizza. "Damn, start your own," Dominic said, slapping Sanchez hard on the arm. Sorry, dude, I got a new phone number. Apparently I forgot to give it out. Dude, I was kidding, okay? Sanchez complained, rubbing his bruised arm. Seriously, where's Mindy? Martin asked. Linda's been trying to call her, but she's not answering any calls. I don't know, Dominic shrugged. Been visiting my parents. Mindy met my brother, decided to switch, and I never saw her again. Dude, holy shit? Sanchez exclaimed, opening his mouth in shock. That's just a nightmare. Linda, I think you need to come here, Martin said into his cell phone. Dominic told Martin, Sanchez, and their wives the whole sordid story. Ever since Richie was born, he got everything he wanted, and if there was anything left over, Dominic got the crumbs. When Monica was born, the situation worsened, with Richie getting the lion's share, Monica being next, and Dominic settling for the leftovers. My science project? I created a tornado-driven vortex using dry ice, Dominic said, jaw clenched. Guaranteed an A, right? Richie broke everything the night before he turned it in. And that's who that fool Mindy dumped you for? Martin's wife, Linda, asked. Better off without her, agreed Caroline. Sanchez, I told you the last piece is mine. Give it to me. What, you're still eating the last slice, Sanchez complained, but still gave his wife the last slice of pizza. And of course, my mom and dad. Oh, Richie didn't want that. He just wanted to see how it worked. Tell him you're sorry, Richie, Dominic continued. So, I caught Mindy with Richie, and I'm pretty sure my dad said, what, she has to settle for Dominic? When she can have Richie? Dominic couldn't have known it, but his words were pretty consistent with what Big Bill Greenwood had said. Linda, Caroline, Sanchez, and Martin shook their heads in disgust. We need to do something to get you out of this state, Sanchez declared. Yeah, man, sitting around doing nothing, obsessing over a problem, that's not a solution, Martin agreed. But I'm not like that, Dominic said. No, just sitting around feeling sorry for yourself for what that bitch did to you, Sanchez said. But it's not like that, Dominic protested. Girls, do we need to take Dominic to Sanchez? Martin asked. Benhurst, Sanchez announced. Benhurst, Colorado? Martin clarified. Hell yes. Count me out. Jake has a Hollister case coming up, Caroline said. And I've got the whole week scheduled at Stanfield, Linda added, especially if you're going to visit one of their nice little stores. Weekend for the guys, Martin and Sanchez announced, high-fiving each other. Dominic found himself literally being dragged to a guy's weekend, which he didn't want or need. Yes, the breakup with Mindy was painful, but he'd already put that behind him. The breakup with his family was much more difficult. After a few years of school, Dominic realized he couldn't work for Big Bill and Richie in the family business. He just couldn't and wouldn't work under one of the Greenwoods. He chose electrical engineering because Triangle Carter Incorporated provided electrical services for offshore oil rigs. They also did communications and computer services. Francesca suggested that Richie go into engineering to keep up with other companies, but Big Bill immediately rejected the idea, believing that Richie was needed in the office. Dominic, who always studied better than Richie, decided to attend Whittle College. Triangle Carter Incorporated was actually the brainchild of Francesca Greenwood. Big Bill, returning from a 14-day job on an offshore oil rig, told Francesca about a portable phone that one of the electricians had brought in. Big Bill laughed at the device and at the electrician who had spent so much money on such a bulky device. However, Francesca saw the potential and believed that a company that could provide reliable and affordable communication in such places would thrive. Despite his doubts, Big Bill agreed to give it a try. At the time, Triangle Carter Incorporated was named TC in honor of Francesca and Bill Greenwood and the mountain of debt they were in. When Richie was born, he became the third leg of TC. Then Dominic came along, and the Greenwoods considered becoming Trapeze. But Francesca said she would drop out and become a stay-at-home Greenwood. Monica's arrival reinstated the idea of a triangle: Richie, Dominique, and Monica, with Big Bill running the triangle. While Martin and Sanchez made plans for a drawn-out weekend, Dominic completed all the requirements for his master's degree. He then vacated his apartment and moved all of his belongings to room 223A in the Easy Storage Center on Henderson Plains Road. The apartment manager looked it over and grudgingly agreed to return the deposit. "It's all right, buddy," shouted Sanchez as they got into Martin's Mercedes-Benz. "Raquel Falls, we're coming." "Raquel Falls?" surprised Dominic from the back seat. "I thought we were going to—" "The ski lift motel is 210, Martin confirmed. "Don't worry, we have 3 rooms. As I told Linda, there's no way I'm sharing a bed with either of you." "Neither will I," Sanchez agreed. "No offense, dude, but Jesus. Have you ever smelled a toilet after someone threw a bomb in there?" "Fuck you," Martin laughed. "Like yours smells like flowers?" "But anyway, it's all about our man Dominic Greenwood finding himself a girlfriend, right?" "That's right," Sanchez shouted. "Guys, hell, it's not like I need your help to get laid," Dominic protested again. Dominic wasn't endowed with Big Bill's bountiful physique, nor his handsome face, nor his thick, wavy blonde hair and deep brown eyes. Dominic looked like Francesca Greenwood. He had inherited her tightly curled red hair, light complexion, and brilliant green eyes. He also inherited her slight build. Fortunately, he also inherited her business acumen and strategic skills. Most people thought Dominic was more than just a little cute. Until they met Richie. After that, Dominique simply ceased to exist. Dominic took a room on the second floor, while Sanchez and Martin took 2 rooms on the first floor with an adjoining door between them. Dominic was thankful that he wouldn't have to share an adjoining room with Martin or Sanchez. He imagined one or both of them bursting into the room as he tried to sleep. Or if all of a sudden in the 4 days of the planned weekend, he actually slept with a woman. Sanchez or Martin would barge into his room while he was having fun with the woman. "All right, gentlemen, synchronize your watches," Martin said, adopting a serious tone. "Our first stop is the Landslide Club, 49 o'clock. "The Landslide Club?" Dominic asked. "An avalanche of the finest girls Colorado has to offer," confirmed Martin. "Oh my God, really? A girls' bar?" complained Dominic. "We leave here at 21 hours, gentlemen," Martin continued. "Okay, let me take a quick shower and meet you at the car." "No sipping in the shower, Colonel Greenwood," Sanchez chuckled. "We'll leave that for the ladies." There were several attractive young women in the Landslide Club. Most of them were fresh-faced girls who smiled, cooed, and expressed sympathy when Martin and Sanchez explained that they had come to cheer up a dejected Dominic, who was going through the breakup of a long-term relationship. But it was Martin and Sanchez who drank quite a few shots of a drink that the Landslide Club bartender called snow blindness. It was Martin who went to room D5 with Cecile, a red-haired full woman with large freckled breasts and a juicy ass. "Gentlemen, I declare this operation a success," Martin said, staggering slightly as he returned from the bathroom. "Roger?" "Roger," Sanchez enthusiastically agreed. "Gentlemen, the next target of Operation Lucky Dick is Trick Tricks at the Gold Rush," Martin announced, pointing to the door of the Landslide Club. "Sly Tricks? What's that name?" Dominic asked as his hearing returned to normal. "What's the difference between Harry Houdini and Halle Berry?" chuckled Sanchez. Oh, I can see that." "Don't, God, just don't," Dominic begged as they got into Martin's Mercedes-Benz. "One's a clever trick, the other's a terrific girl," Sanchez chuckled drunkenly. "I said don't," Dominic complained. Tricky Tricks also had plenty of attractive women willing to take their clothes off for money. For a few dollars, they were willing to do more. For a few dollars, they would agree to go into the magic room to have a one-on-one chat with a client. Sanchez and Martin entered the magic room, Sanchez with Ebony, an attractive African-American woman, and Martin with another red-haired girl with large breasts who introduced herself as Ariel. "Gentlemen, goal reached and conquered, Roger?" Martin drunkenly purred. "Understood," agreed Sanchez. "Damn the black girls." "Our next target," Martin stated. "It's a bed, Give me the keys, Dominic demanded. You've had too much to drink, man. No, fuck it, Martin said. Our next target is Rocky Mountain Way, on Aspen Drive. You two can go ahead and kill yourselves. I'll clean up, Dominic stated. Gentlemen, I think the problem is that Colonel Dominic Greenwood is a giant prick, Martin announced. He should be prosecuted on the charge of desertion. That's a crime that can be committed by a court-martial. Agreed, General, said Sanchez drunkenly. Never mind, Dominic said as he left the noisy nightclub. The next morning, Martin and Sanchez didn't look well. Over breakfast, they talked in color about the Rocky Mountain Way girls, not noticing that Dominic wasn't listening at all. Would either of you stop and think about what Linda or Caroline would think if they found out about your adventures? Asked Dominic, adding Tabasco to his scrambled eggs. Dude, how can you eat that? Sanchez asked, looking a little green. Linda wouldn't know. Martin brushed it off. After yesterday, Martin continued, Colonel Indigo and I have decided to give you another chance to redeem yourself. Tonight at 9 o'clock, we'll start our operation at the Daughters Steakhouse, and then we'll go to Golden Nuggets on Berkshire Way. Synchronize your watches, gentlemen. Linda and Caroline don't mind you spending money on such entertainment? Dominic asked, paying for his breakfast. Are you wearing tights? Martin grinned. Caroline knows we can get a bit naughty. Do you think she'll mind? Ariel, or, no, Heather, said we should try that Joy store next door, Martin added. No, I have a headache, Dominique refused, to which Martin and Sanchez only grinned. After lunch, Dominic went for a walk. This weekend was getting more and more depressing. Instead of cheering him up, he watched his friends spend money on anonymous lovemaking with dancers. Dominic wasn't going to tell Linda or Caroline about their husbands' adventures, but he wouldn't lie to Martin and Sanchez either. They were greeted at the Daughters Steakhouse by an attractive young woman. The waitress smiled sweetly as she took the order, smiled sweetly as she served the food, and smiled sweetly as she responded to Martin's insistence on her phone number. Here, $20, Sanchez said softly. Ma'am, I'm sorry, Dominic said, holding out the $20 to her. The food was excellent and your service was impeccable. Thank you, come again, the girl said, and quickly withdrew. The Golden Nugget turned out to be a carbon copy of Club Collapse and Tricky Tricks. Loud. Music, flashing lights, and beautiful girls willing to strip for money. Prospector's Mine also had loud music, flashing lights, and pretty girls. Sanchez found an African-American woman to his liking again and paid for a private dance in the champagne room. Hey, Sanchez drunkenly yelled at Dominic. What's your problem, huh? Come on, man, lighten up. Dude, this is stupid, Dominic declared, standing up. You two can do what you want, and I'm going back to the motel. You can't do that, protested Martin. Look, Dominic said, calling an Uber on his phone. Martin and Sanchez didn't show up for breakfast. Dominic enjoyed his morning in silence, browsing the local Benhurst Bugler that the motel provided. In the paper was an ad for the Centennial Walk, with the promise of good music and good food. Friday and Saturday dances featured a live band. Boardwalker's restaurant on the shores of Lake Merrily offered fresh trout and home fries. See, said Dominic, looking at a picture of couples dancing. That's where we should have gone, not to places where it's all slutty girls. At the Nasty Pig barbecue restaurant, the three men were served hearty barbecue sandwiches and potato salad. Sanchez tried the fried pickles. The waitress smiled politely as she took their order, and smiled politely when Martin asked what time she was free. About 4:30, my girlfriend usually picks me up on her Harley, the girl said. Gentlemen, we need to coordinate a plan of attack, Martin stated. You can coordinate, plan, do whatever you want, Dominic interrupted him. There will be live music and dancing at Centennial Walk tonight. That's where I'll be. Gentlemen, Lieutenant Greenwood has a great idea, Martin agreed. Hell, we spend too much on girls and bars, am I right? So let's synchronize our watches. The Centennial Walk has good hamburgers, and the Boardwalker has trout, Sanchez added. We'll get there around 8, grab a bite, dance. Who knows? Martin suggested. Yeah, said Sanchez. Hell, can you imagine how much money we've already spent? Synchronize your watches. Meet me at the car at 19:30, Martin announced. That's 7:30 for those who don't speak the language of shitheads, Dominic agreed. Lieutenant Greenwood, you've already been demoted from the rank of colonel to lieutenant, Martin warned. Would you like that on your personnel file? Insubordination to a superior officer? What the fuck? Dominic shook his head, finding the whole thing rather silly. Is this a joy store? Sanchez asked, looking across the street. Excellent eye, Colonel Indigo, praised Martin. Submit yourself for a medal for actions most characteristic of an officer, okay? Understood, Sanchez agreed. I'll see you at 7:30, Dominic said. And Lieutenant Greenwood, I expect to see a shine on their boots. You hear me? Dominic lowered his gaze to his tattered cowboy boots and shook his head. He walked back to the motel, mentally figuring out what clothes to wear tonight to Centennial Walk or Boardwalkers. He took with him the beautiful green and yellow and white cowboy shirt Mindy had bought for him. She said it accentuated his green eyes perfectly. That night, Martin strongly objected, but Dominic refused to get in the car if Martin was driving. Both Martin and Sanchez sampled the rather large assortment of goods supplied by the Joy Shop, and both were high when Dominic knocked on Martin's door at 19:50 or 7:50 that evening. Eventually, the trio decided to go to Centennial Walk. Dominic was the only one who wanted trout for dinner. Upon entering the dimly lit nightclub, Martin and Sanchez took a table near the dance floor and began harassing the poor waitress for not serving anything stronger than draft beer. Gentlemen, coordinates for 11 o'clock, my position, Sanchez announced enthusiastically. Right, not 1, but 2 chocolate bunnies for Colonel Indigo. Excellent, Colonel Indigo, Martin agreed. But where did a white guy from Alabama get such an affinity for ghetto booty? I had a black girlfriend when I was in 8th grade, Sanchez laughed. That babe knew how to kiss, you hear me? Does Caroline know about this? Dominic asked with mild curiosity. And she better not find out, Sanchez threatened. She hates black people. I can't tell you how many times I've heard her say the N-word. Calm down, Dominic said. What am I going to do? I'm going to say, by the way, Caroline, did you know that Sanchez is crazy for chocolate? The burgers were excellent, and the sweet potato fries had just the right combination of sweet and salty. While they ate, the band tuned up and then began their set. The 4 musicians were quite good, with a female keyboardist and a male bassist swapping vocal duties. Gentlemen, target located, Sanchez said, rising to his feet. Sanchez walked over to a table of girls and asked one of the African-American women to dance. She smiled and stood up. Major Greenwood, that really was a great idea of yours. Martin smiled and stood up as well. Oh, now I've been promoted to major? Dominic said, shaking his head. Martin walked over to another table of women and asked a striking red-haired girl to dance. The tall, slender woman smiled and nodded. Dude, they're fucking cousins. You believe that shit? Sanchez turned to Dominic enthusiastically, finishing the last of his beer before approaching the second African-American woman. 40 minutes later, Martin and his fiery, red-headed companion were passionately twirling around each other on the dance floor. Sanchez, for his part, was switching partners, dancing with one or the other of his cousins, and all 3 were savoring these moments. Hey! A pretty blonde woman suddenly addressed Dominic. Dominic looked up from his second mug of beer. The girl was short in stature, with a short haircut that barely reached her chin. Her outfit consisted of a brightly colored bikini and a too-short t-shirt, and on her feet were tattered flip-flops. Especially conspicuous were the numerous piercings on her face. In the semi-darkness of the bar, Dominic also noticed the long green tattoo at the bottom of her stomach, disappearing under the short t-shirt. Hey, the girl repeated, and her fingers awkwardly poked Dominic in the chest. What, too drunk to dance? No, I'm too sober to dance. Dominique smiled back at her. Her eyes widened in surprise, and she smiled happily at him. Then she poked him in the chest with her finger again. Then finish your beer quickly and dance with me, she commanded. Understood? Okay, Dominic agreed and stood up. The band started playing the song Kiss Them For Me by Susie and the Banshees. The girl exclaimed with delight and started dancing. Dominic realized that he didn't have to do anything at all. He just stood still while his unknown partner moved freely around him, getting lost in his t-shirt-clad breasts and rounded bikini-clad buttocks. Dominic only moved his feet slightly and bobbed his head to the beat of the music. "You're a great dancer," the girl called out through the music. "Honey, I'm not doing anything at all, just standing there." Dominic laughed. "Kiss Them For Me" was followed by a slow melody. The girl pressed herself against Dominic and started kissing her way through his shirt. Dominic wrapped his arms around her and began to move to the beat of the music. He noticed she had nothing on under her thin t-shirt and wondered where she had lost her bikini. "Get me a beer," she ordered. "The bartender knows I'm only 19 and won't sell me one." Dominic delivered a draft beer for his unknown companion and remained standing, holding the full glass in his hands as she quickly disappeared into the bathroom. "Thank you. What's your name?" she asked, returning a moment later. "Dominic," he replied with a smile as he watched her drink the beer in one long gulp. "Thanks. Do you dance? It's a hot pastime, isn't it?" She admired and pulled Dominic onto the dance floor again. Dominic again remained standing while his companion shook around him. At one point, she turned around, getting behind his back. "Wow, Dominic, this is great," she exclaimed, turning around to face him. "Thank you," Dominic smiled. "Dominic, isn't it? That's a name for a little boy, isn't it?" "You're definitely not a little boy," she joked, looking down at his lower belly. The band called a break for 10 minutes. The girl groaned in frustration and then asked for another beer. Dominic looked around, seeing neither Martin nor Sanchez. Shrugging, he headed to the bar and ordered 2 glasses of draft beer. "Thanks." "Oh, you're so sweet. Did you bring me 2?" she asked, grabbing 1 beer from his hands. "No, ma'am, the second one is for me," Dominic clarified. "Oh, got it." She smiled and immediately drank her beer in one long gulp. "And what's your name?" Dominic asked, watching as she swung her hips to a quiet tune. "I didn't tell you?" She sighed and joked. "I'm Victoria, but not Vicky in any way, God forbid. I'm Victoria Hanson." "I'm Dominic Greenwood," he introduced himself, looking around the room for his friends. "Let's get going." "Do you want to go for a walk?" Victoria suggested, and dragged Dominic toward Centennial Walk into the cool evening. Stepping out into the cool night, Dominic looked around the parking lot for Martin's Mercedes-Benz, but didn't see it. Sighing, he realized that he would have to take a cab back to the motel. Victoria grabbed his hand and led him toward the lake. "I like this lake. I'm a great swimmer from high school," Victoria shared as she led him along the shore. "Yeah?" asked Dominic. "Uh-huh," said Victoria, squeezing Dominic's hand tightly. She stopped suddenly, turned to face him, and wrapped her arms around his neck again. She stood on her toes and pressed her lips to his. As they kissed, she plunged her tongue into Dominic's mouth again. "So, what's with the piercings?" asked Dominic when Victoria let go of him. "God, how silly, really," Victoria shrugged, taking Dominique's hand. With her free hand, Victoria pointed to an ugly scar along his forearm. Dominique looked at the pink wrinkled flesh in the moonlight. "I really liked cutting," Victoria said. "I mean, gosh, what a joy, you know? But anyway, I got in too deep with this one. Blood was everywhere. It wouldn't stop flowing, you know. Went and showed my mom and my stupid stepdad, and she's screaming why I tried to kill myself, and I'm saying I didn't. Hell, okay?" Dominic wondered what this had to do with the rings Victoria wore along her right eyebrow, or the 6 or 7 earrings she wore in her left ear. What did the ring adorning her right nostril and the ring threaded through her lower lip have to do with cuts too deep? Next thing I know, my mom has me stuck in Jordanair's psychiatric ward, and I have to go to these stupid meetings, Mutilators Anonymous or something, said Victoria, stepping next to Dominique. Okay? Asked Dominique after a long silence. I met Ned there, and he showed me all the scars on his arms, but he doesn't cut anymore, and he said he'd help me, Victoria admitted, and stopped galloping. Dominic prodded, and tells me that no one will believe it was rape. Remember? I'm in a mental institution, Victoria said and stopped. She let go of Dominic's hand and turned to look out at the inky black surface of the lake. After a long silence, Dominic stepped toward Victoria and hugged her gently. She leaned against his chest. Anyway, I've stopped cutting myself, Victoria whispered. But now that I feel like cutting myself, I get piercings. She turned and smiled at Dominique. She pointed to her altered eyebrow. I really wanted to cut myself, Victoria admitted. Here, I bought these. Do you like them? Before Dominic could answer, no, he doesn't like multiple piercings. Victoria kissed him again. Standing up on her toes, she pressed her whole body against him. Smiling and then giggling, Victoria grabbed Dominic's hand and pulled him toward a group of trailer homes across the street from the lake. Inside the trailer, Victoria pulled on a t-shirt and took it off. The long, thin green tattoo looked like a yellow iris or a lily. The green stem tapered upward, branching into 3 full leaves. Her left breast was completely covered by the yellow flower. Victoria pressed herself against Dominic again and kissed him eagerly. I don't do this to everyone, Victoria declared as she swung open the door to the cluttered bedroom. Your mom and stepdad won't mind? Asked Dominic as Victoria turned on the small bedside lamp. Oh no, Dominic. This is my place, Victoria hastened to assure him. Goodness. Right, like I'm ever going to bring God. My mom's just going to shit herself, huh? Are you staying? Asked Victoria, already pulling the blankets over herself. Yeah, you want me to, Dominic agreed. She rolled over onto her back and turned off the bedside lamp. Then she rolled over and rested her small head on his chest. Her uneven fingernails ran along his stomach and chest. Dominic felt someone watching him. He opened his eyes and saw the petite Victoria looking at him. He smiled, and the girl smiled back. Hi, Mom. What are you doing? The little girl asked. Nothing. What are you doing? Asked Dominique, making sure the blanket covered him. Nothing, she said. What, me neither, said Dominic, and the girl giggled. Who are you? The girl asked. I'm Mr. Dominic. And who are you? Asked Dominic, trying to remember where his jeans and underwear might have ended up. Yeah, I'm Rihanna. I live here. Do you live here now? Asked Rihanna. Oh no, ma'am, Dominic smiled. I'm just a friend of your mom's. Is she here? Rihanna said yes, but made no move to leave the room. Rihanna, I said I'd check to see if Mr. Dominic wanted coffee, Victoria stated, appearing on the bedroom doorstep. Yes, Rihanna confirmed. Did you ask him? Mr. Dominic, she asked if you wanted coffee. Victoria turned to Dominic, rolling over onto her back and seeing her in the doorway. She was wearing a short t-shirt and a bikini bottom, her short hair fluttering as she shook her head. Victoria waved a finger at Rihanna. Young lady, you just lied, Victoria observed. But he probably wants coffee, Rihanna objected. Yeah, but you didn't ask him, Victoria replied. Rihanna followed her mother out of the bedroom. Dominic quickly dressed and followed them out. What are you cooking for him? Victoria asked, pouring coffee into a chipped mug. Cream, half and half milk if you have it, Dominic replied, sitting down at the table. Rihanna looked up from her toast and smiled at Dominic. Her smile was cheerful and soft. Dominic smiled back, and she giggled. Yeah, coffee is all I have, Victoria mumbled, placing a weak brew in front of Dominic. It's fine, Dominic assured her. In fact, I'm not much of a breakfast person. Yeah, look, I'm not one to make it to order or anything, Victoria muttered, pouring herself a cup of coffee. But you got a couple bucks? Dominic chuckled at the weak coffee. He didn't like motel coffee, but it was better than this diluted brew. He took a sip and set the mug on the table. Let's see, Dominic said, pulling his wallet out of his pocket. The wallet contained 2 $100 bills and 3 20s. Victoria didn't look at him, and he put the money on the table. Dominic quickly arranged for Uber to pick him up. The app reported that the driver was 8 minutes away, dropping someone off at the local Chevrolet dealership. Thank you for your hospitality, Dominic said, stepping away from Victoria. Yeah, it was my pleasure too, Victoria murmured. I'll see you around, okay? Said Dominic, heading for the door. Yeah, when are you planning on heading back to Kansas, right? Asked Victoria, turning her head in his direction. Leaving at 10, Dominic replied. Eh? Okay, see you then, Victoria replied, turning back to her cup of coffee. Bye, Rihanna. It was nice to meet you, Dominic said as he opened the trailer door. Martin's Mercedes-Benz wasn't parked in the motel lot. Dominic assumed Martin and Sanchez had gone to another store to stock up before returning to Brokenfield, Kansas. He walked into the diner and poured himself a cup of coffee. Even though the coffee at the motel wasn't the best, it was still better than what Victoria was trying to drink. After breakfast, Dominic went outside. Martin's cars were still nowhere to be seen. Dominic returned to his room, took a quick shower, put on his last set of clean clothes, and packed his duffel bag. He checked for his phone charger and took one last look around the room to make sure he hadn't forgotten anything. Hey, your friends, huh? Muttered the manager as Dominic returned the key card to the counter. What's up with them? Asked Dominic. Some van pulled up, and what do I know? They left, leaving a debt for the 3 days they spent here, said the manager. That's their problem, said Dominic. Do they have credit cards? Yes, but MasterCard said the card has been canceled, the manager replied. I'll only pay for my room, and no additional charges, Dominic said firmly. We need to let them know. After paying the bill and making sure nothing else was owed, Dominic went outside. He pulled out his cell phone and tried to find Martin's number. The call went to Martin's voicemail. Dominic then tried Sanchez. Again, the call went to Sanchez's voicemail. Gritting his teeth, Dominic tried to dial Caroline's number. What? Answered Caroline, screaming. Jesus, what are you yelling for? Replied Dominic. Do you know where Sanchez is? What, are you seriously asking what I'm yelling at you for? Bellowed Caroline. I thought we were friends and you're letting my husband… Now I understand why Mindy dumped you, loser. And don't call me again, understand? Dominic swiped his finger across the phone screen and found the nearest Greyhound station. He noticed it was only 9 blocks from the motel. Sighing heavily, Dominic began to cross the 9 blocks to the bus terminal. His cell phone rang, and Dominic pulled it out of his pocket. The number was unfamiliar to him. At the last moment, he decided to answer it. It's Dominic, he said when he saw the familiar Greyhound bus station sign. That was too much money, said a quiet voice. What? Interjected Dominic. You gave me too much money, Victoria said, her voice sounding gentle. I don't think so, Dominic shrugged. Hell, I told you I'm not a call girl, Victoria objected. Dominic made quick deductions. It had been almost 2 hours since he had left Victoria's trailer. He wondered if it had taken her that long to pay attention to the few dollars he'd left on her kitchen table. Hey, Victoria, do you need that money? Asked Dominic. Well, yeah, but I mean… Then use them, said Dominic. Thanks. I had fun, Victoria muttered. You and I had a good time. Me too, Dominic smiled, nodding gratefully as the older gentleman opened the door in front of him. Bye, Victoria said quickly, ending the conversation. Bye, Dominic agreed, looking around the small but clean station. He couldn't figure out how Victoria had found his phone number. Apparently, she had gone through his pockets while he was asleep. Dominic quickly checked them, but remembered he'd worn different jeans yesterday. Everything appeared to be in place. Shrugging, he saved Victoria's number and tucked his phone back into his pocket. "Are you Dominic?" the old man asked, squinting at Dominic. "Yes, Dominic," he replied, nodding in confirmation. "Damn type," the man muttered. "You were supposed to be here at 11. "Sorry," Dominic said, and headed to the box office to get his ticket. "Are you looking for work?" the old man asked. Dominic stopped and looked at the man. His clothes were tattered but clean. The boots seemed never to have been cleaned. His skin was tanned from hours of outdoor work. "What's in store for me?" thought Dominic. Probably nothing good. "Do you know how to ride?" the old man asked. "We have a couple of ATVs, but—" "Yes, I can," Dominic replied. A few years ago, Richie had insisted that everyone go to the ranch for 2 weeks. Richie hated the experience and was afraid of horses. Dominic, on the other hand, loved it, and Monica, though she rarely agreed with Dominic, admitted that she enjoyed it too. This time, Richie couldn't sway the decision. "We need someone to help with the cows," the old man said. Dominic was an hour late. He still hadn't had time to recover from yesterday, and Mr. Cleason said his services weren't needed. Greg Cleason's Silverado was over 3 years old, but the odometer already showed 109,000 miles. Dominic threw his bag in the trunk and sat in the front seat. Dominic liked the endless hours of hard work when there was no time to think. He worked with Greg and a few other men in the pasture. Every Friday, Greg paid them in cash. On Saturday, the 3 of them looked terrible, and on Sunday, they had a choice of going to the Baptist church or sleeping late. Even though Dominic was Catholic, he went to church with Greg and his wife Sammy. On his 3rd paycheck, Dominic noticed that his wallet had become too thick to close, but he didn't feel safe nosing the money around idly. Jack had a sly look, and Tommy always found himself broke when Monday came around. So he took an envelope with a few stamps from Sammy and mailed most of the money to Victoria's trailer. On Sunday, as Dominic went to church with Greg and Sam, his cell phone rang, reporting a message that had come in. It turned out they were close enough to the tower that Dominic could receive messages. "What is it? What did you do?" Victoria's voice rang out. "No, Rihanna, it's Mr. Dominic's voicemail." When Reverend Paul Dashin's sermon seemed to be dragging on, Dominic walked over to Cleason's truck and called Victoria. "Dominic, what's going on? Why did you send me the money?" Victoria demanded. "Hey, I got a bed and 3 meals a day," Dominic replied, smiling, nodding at the passing parishioners. No, Rihanna, wait your turn," Victoria objected. "Rihanna, I need to talk to him first, okay?" "Like I said, I have everything here, a bed, food, a shower when I need one," Dominic continued. "I don't need the money, but then again, I don't have a daughter to take care of. Look, I'm serious. I'm not some kind of—" Victoria began, but Dominic interrupted her. "Never said anything like that," Dominic said. "Use what you need. Leave the rest. I'll pick it up when I'm done here, okay?" "Okay, wait. Rihanna's about to have a seizure," Victoria said. "Dominique, when are you coming to see me?" Rihanna asked. "I don't know, honey," replied Dominic. "I'm at work right now. Guess when I'm done." "Okay, I love you. Hurry up and come over," Rihanna said. "As soon as I can," Dominic promised. "Do you need anything?" Victoria asked. "No, like I said, I have 3 bunks and a walk," said Dominic. "Victoria, I have nothing and nothing to spend that money on. You have some. Use them. Take what you need, okay?" "You're crazy," Victoria declared, and ended the conversation. 7 weeks later, a much fitter and slimmer Dominic knocked on the trailer door. A moment later, Victoria opened the door and squealed with joy when she saw Dominic. "Hey, how did you get in here? Oh my God." Victoria laughed happily and hugged Dominic. "Hey, are you okay? How long are you staying here?" Mr. Dominic!" exclaimed an enthusiastic Rihanna. Victoria was dressed in denim shorts and a bright blue sports bra, despite the chill. Lily's tattoos and a new piercing in her navel were visible on her body. Dominic wondered for a moment how much the new piercing had cost, but pushed the thought away. "Do you want coffee?" asked Victoria excitedly, despite Rihanna's requests to show him her toys. "No thanks," Dominic said, remembering the deplorable coffee the last time he'd been in her trailer. "I make it better now," Victoria laughed. And the last time? It was almost instant. After lunch, when Victoria demonstrated improvements with the coffee maker, Rihanna fell asleep. Victoria led Dominic into her rather cluttered bedroom. "Here, that's pretty much it. I had about $300 to spend," Victoria said as she pulled a bag of groceries from a dresser drawer. "Had to pay last month's rent and this month's, but everything else is here. You can check, okay?" "Ria, I trust you," Dominic said without even looking in the money bag. "And," began Victoria, snuggling up to Dominic for a kiss. She began to undo the buttons on his flannel shirt. Her nibbled nails scratched his chest as she worked. "Ria, please just keep that money, okay?" said Dominic as they lay on a pile of pillows. "What did you call me?" Victoria chuckled, running her fingernail over his firm belly. Ria and Rihanna, my two beautiful little blondes," Dominic said. That night, Rihanna insisted that Mr. Dominic be the one to bathe her and read her the tale of Rumpelstiltskin. The next day, when Victoria received her food assistance card, Rihanna wanted Dominic to be the one to push her in the grocery cart. 3 days later, Rihanna was upset when Dominic left their trailer. Victoria shed tears too, as she hugged Dominic before slamming the trailer door shut. "Women," the Uber driver sympathized as he drove Dominic to the Greyhound bus station. 5 weeks later, when snow covered most of the ground, Dominic and 2 of the 4 workers wondered where Greg was. It was payday, and Greg was usually there with cash in hand. Entering the kitchen of the Clayson home, Dominic saw Samantha Clayson's body on the living room floor. He picked up the wall phone, but heard no ringing. The line was disconnected. Dominic got into the Clayson's truck and headed toward the small town, occasionally checking his cell phone for a signal. When the signal appeared, he was already several miles from the sheriff's office and reached it. Mrs. Clayson had been strangled. Sheriff Olstoy was unable to determine if she had been strangled before or after her death. Greg had received several blunt force trauma blows. There was no sign of the week's cash on the floor. There was also no sign of Jack and Tom, the 2 field workers. "Hell of a thing," Sheriff Olstoy grumbled. "Yeah," Dominic agreed, contemplating what to do with the remaining hands who now wouldn't get their money for the work. Greg had no immediate family. Samantha had an older sister living in Sacramento, California. The sister had asked to sell the cattle and possessions, as she had no need for them. It was only a few days before Christmas when all matters with the Clayson's estate were settled. Dominic returned to Lake Merrily. Victoria opened the trailer door and squealed with joy. "Dominic, I saw Santa, and I told him that you're going to bring me all the toys, and I want you here for Christmas," Rihanna excitedly told Dominic. "I used some of that money you sent me to buy Rihanna something for Christmas. Do you mind?" asked Victoria, stroking Dominic's ear affectionately. "Ria, I told you to use that money," Dominic whispered, kissing her. "It's a wonderful thing. Little girls need colorful Christmases." "You're the only one who will call me that," Victoria sighed, biting his ear fondly. Then she giggled enthusiastically and clapped her hands together, her blue eyes sparkling with joy. Oh, I must show you," Victoria exclaimed. She had a new tattoo on her bicep. A large red heart had Dominic's name scrawled in it, and she awaited his approval. "Do you like it?" asked Victoria, looking at it expectantly. "Ria, it's just wow," Dominic stammered, shocked. Victoria pulled up the sleeve of her thermal t-shirt and knelt down in front of Dominic. She kissed him and gently bit her lower lip. "I love you," she whispered. "I believe you," Dominic replied, stroking her lips. Christmas morning caught Dominic by surprise when Victoria took Rihanna's hand, and they traveled to the Baptist church together to celebrate the holiday. Victoria grabbed Dominic's hand and smiled, ignoring the surprised looks from the rest of the congregation. "Did they tell you that?" Victoria said, pointing to her new eyebrow. "They say it's a sin." "I told them. Show me where." "You say it's a sin? Show me." "But they can't show me anything. Somehow I am sinful. And what will they think when they see my lily tattoo? They'll just go crazy." The new bike with training wheels was Rihanna's favorite activity, despite the thick layer of snow on the gravel paths of the trailer park where they lived. Dominic often took her to the local park, applauding her every move. When the girl froze, he carried her in his arms, bike in his other hand. "Who wants hot chocolate?" exclaimed Victoria cheerfully when they got home. "You, hot chocolate? Ah, who can drink that?" teased Dominic. "No, Dominic, we're cold. And when we're cold, we drink hot chocolate," Rihanna patiently explained. 2 days after Christmas, Dominic returned to Broken Field, Kansas, to pick up his truck and remove the rest of his belongings. He left some of his belongings in Victoria's trailer and found a smaller storage unit for the rest of his possessions. "Now we have an auto?" asked Rihanna enthusiastically. "But you have to wait until you're 16 before you can drive," Dominic said with a smile. Victoria had never learned to drive, and snowy roads weren't the ideal place for such an experience. After 3 collisions, she was able to park the car on the side of the road. "That's it," she yelled at Dominic. "You're the driver and Rihanna and I are the passengers." When the snow melted, Dominic tried again to teach Victoria how to drive. She was able to drive them to the grocery store and Savewell department store on her own, after which she relaxed and told him how scared she was. In late April, a rodeo came to Benhurst County, and Rihanna was fascinated by the horses. She agreed to ride a Shetland pony, but insisted that Dominic be by her side during the ride. "Yes, miss. I see a lot of girls like that." The handler smiled. When Victoria thanked him for his patience with Rihanna. "Is that you, Daddy's little girl?" Victoria teased Rihanna. "Is Mr. Dominic your daddy now?" "Yes," Rihanna replied, feeling safe in Dominic's arms. 5,000? asked Dominic to another man, reading an ad for a rodeo that offered $5,000 to ride a bull named Monstro. From the picture, the bull looked impressive. Dominic and Victoria scrutinized it closely. "Gotta last at least 8 seconds, the man said, looking at Victoria in her brightly colored bikini. "Dominic, don't," Victoria pleaded. "My daddy can do anything," Rihanna declared. "Honey, money is tight now," Dominic admitted to Victoria. "Please, Dominic, don't," she begged. "Rihanna, please don't spur him on. Your daddy doesn't have to do this." After reading the terms and conditions that the rodeo was not responsible for injuries, Dominic signed his name. The man announced loudly that they were ready. "If you tear up in there, don't think I'm going to hug you afterward and make it right," Victoria said sharply, pulling Rihanna away from Dominic. "Do you hear me?" "I promise, if anything, I won't run to you," laughed Dominic. "That's not funny," Victoria shouted. In the chute, Monstro was already raging furiously. As Dominic sat on his back and hooked his left arm around the noose, Monstro began bashing against the walls of the enclosure, trying to throw him off. "Remember, when you jump off, run to the wall, we'll pull you up," the man yelled in Dominic's ear. "You hate me," Victoria said, and tears ran down her cheeks. "Can you hear me?" When the parachute opened, Dominic experienced unimaginable terror. The monstrosity was focused on one thing only: destroying Dominic Greenwood. The bull lashed out, bucking and leaping, trying to tear him from his saddle. Dominic wondered how he had managed to run to the wall when every movement of the beast caused a sharp pain in his body. The roar of the crowd drowned out the sound of the buzzer. Dominic lost track of time. 8 seconds, unable to see the clock and hearing only the bull's menacing snort and the roar of blood in his ears. Finally, the animal turned and Dominic saw the wall nearby. He realized this was his best chance and let go of the noose, pushing himself off the bull's back. The monstro realized he was hurtling straight into the wall, and his momentum, along with Dominic's, carried Dominic to a safe distance from the wall. Damn, brother, you did it, yelled the young man, stroking Dominic's back. 11 seconds, 0.4 tenths, you know. Dominic, are you okay? Shouted Victoria, carrying Rihanna and approaching Dominic lying on the dirty floor. Did I do it? Asked Dominic, rising to his trembling feet. Yes! Victoria screamed, punching him forcefully in the stomach. You damned asshole! You could have gotten yourself killed! My daddy can do anything, Rihanna confirmed. Brother, we still have a bull named El Diablo. Can you try him? The other man asked excitedly. He won't do it anymore, shouted Victoria to the man. Here you go, brother. $5,000, said the older man, holding out a check. Here, Rhea, Dominic said, handing the check to Victoria. Take this and buy yourself a wedding dress, got it? What? Victoria was shocked. Yeah, that El Diablo? $5,000 more, the man continued. My husband won't do it again, Victoria exclaimed, hiding the check in her bikini cup. You? Smirked the Hispanic man, looking at Dominic. 11 seconds, 0.4 tenths? That's not bad, is it? But I'll tell you, this El Diablo? I ride it and keep it longer than you. $10,000. Unless you're a chicken? Would you take it? Or maybe your wife wears pants? George, if you couldn't hold your own on Monstro, what makes you so sure you can ride El Diablo? Smirked the older man, glaring at the cocky Latino. Greenwood, you have my promise to return the 10,000. Dominic, honey, please don't. Oh God, I thought I was going to die watching you do this, Victoria pleaded. When? Asked Dominic to George. I hate you, Victoria yelled at Dominic and walked away, taking Rihanna with her. El Diablo lived up to his name. This monster was a real devil with horns and 4 dangerous hooves. George and Dominic decided to toss a coin to determine who would go first. George smiled as he got lucky with his toss and swung around to where El Diablo was roaring, puffing, and snorting. 3 seconds later, George began to twitch and fidget, trying to hold on, but he disqualified himself by grasping the noose with both hands. The move didn't help him, and El Diablo threw George off of him in the 6th second. I'm serious, Victoria yelled at Dominic. That animal could kill you. Do you understand? She turned away when Dominic tried to kiss her and prevented him from hugging Rihanna. In the chute, El Diablo sought to throw Dominic off. Dominic felt his body tearing with every tug of this animal. Then the animal unleashed its full power. Dominic screamed in terror as El Diablo wriggled, jumping, twisting, striving to get rid of him. The animal was moving too fast for him to see anything. Oh shit! Dominic screamed in pain as El Diablo slammed him against the wall. The wall! Let go, wall! Yelled Dominic in desperation. 9 seconds, 2 tenths! Exclaimed the young man, helping Dominic up. God, I'll never be in this again, sighed Dominic, stretching out on the dirty floor. I don't care what they pay, you hear me? Get up! Shouted Victoria and kicked him with her flip-flop. Get up so I can ask you a question. Bull, he's tired. I'm tiring him out, George tried to object to the older man. George, you had to actually ride him to tire him out, the older man muttered. I demand a rematch, progressed George. Well, George, that bull should be tired enough by now, said the older man. Go ahead and try to ride him again. And if I do? Asked George. Then you'll be all right, shrugged the man. Wait a minute, I rode that damn animal, got kicked in the balls, and you say we're even? Protested Dominic. Buddy, I meant what I said, the man said, pulling out his checkbook. Now, that's between me and George. Victoria took the second check and slipped it into her bikini next to the first. She glared angrily at Dominic, squeezed his hand tightly, and led the trio toward the exit. Wait, I want to see if that ass can ride that beast, Dominic protested. Then see if he'll give you a ride home, asshole, snorted Victoria. I told you not to do that. I told you to. Did you listen? No, I didn't listen. Hey, buddy, that was a great trip, praised the young man. Shut up, yelled Victoria at the admirer. Dominic didn't bother to explain to Victoria that he had taken them to the rodeo and the keys to the truck were only in his pocket. He turned as the speaker system announced with a hiss and crackle that George Garcia would attempt to break Dominic Greenwood's record of 9 points. The blast of the horn heralded the opening of the chute, and the crowd erupted in roars. "Oh, that's a hard shot, George," announced the speaker system a few seconds later. "Wipe that smile off your face before I do," Victoria demanded, pulling Dominic toward the exit again. At the meeting with Victoria and Dominic Greenwood, the Baptist minister looked like he had stepped on something. His wife had the same distressed expression on her face as she escorted the couple into her husband's office. "Honey, I know you're a Baptist," Dominic interrupted Reverend Hill's stuttering and cleared his throat. "No, not really," Victoria said, shaking her head. "It's just that they're right down the street. But obviously that arrogant, self-righteous, sanctimonious cocksucker has never read his own Bible," Dominic continued, standing up. "Apparently he's overlooked the fact that Christ died for all, not just the ones this jackass approves of. No, Reverend Hill, we will not be married in your church. You see, I want to be married by a Christian, not what the fuck you are." "You see, young man," hissed the Reverend, genuinely indignant. "No, I have nothing to see here," Dominic said, holding the door open for Victoria. "Your actions have shown us what kind of man you are." The Reverend's wife escorted the defiant couple out with a look. She had heard Dominic's last statement. She said nothing as Dominic led Victoria out of the church office. "I love you so much," Victoria giggled, pulling Dominic to her for a kiss. "And I love you too," Dominic said. "Let's go to St. Pius. Maybe they'll let us get married there." That's Catholic, isn't it?" asked Victoria. "Wow, you know what? I'm Catholic," said Dominic. "Really?" "No, you're not, really?" asked Victoria, surprised. Father Gregory vaguely remembered Dominic Greenwood. He had been serving as priest at St. Thomas Aquinas Church in Bender, Louisiana, when Dominic had received his first communion. He shook his head sadly. The couple wanted a quick wedding, and he would not officiate a quick wedding between a Catholic and a non-Catholic. The couple would have to undergo counseling on the traditions of Catholic marriage before Father Gregory would consent to their union. "But I've always wanted to know one thing," the Victoria man smiled. "Those rings in your nose? What happens when you sneeze?" "The same thing that happens to you," she smiled. "You wipe your nose. Are you sure you won't marry us? I like you." "High praise indeed," laughed Father Gregory heartily. "But no, young lady, I'm sorry. We have rules concerning the sacrament of marriage. We're going to his church," Victoria decided as they emerged from the priest's small, cluttered office. "I like him." Reverend Upjohn of Calvary Church agreed to wed the couple. He smiled at Victoria's enthusiastic exclamation and nodded his head when Dominic thanked him. "The fact that you both requested that your marriage take place in the home of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, rather than just going to the courthouse, tells me that you are Christians, that you want Christ to be a part of your union." "Well, then the Christian thing to do would be to agree to marry you both," the man declared solemnly. "Could you just go to the courthouse?" asked Victoria. "We could," said Dominic, "but I agree with Reverend Upjohn. God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit must be present in our marriage." "By the way," said Reverend Upjohn after Victoria and Dominic filled out the paperwork and gave him the fee. "To the rodeo? That was a very impressive ride." "Yeah? Then pray he doesn't do it again," snapped Victoria. "He will," the man smiled, even though sparks flashed in Victoria's blue eyes. Even with $15,000 to spend on a fancy wedding gown and an elaborate wedding, Victoria had settled on a simple, elegant, pale pink dress. As she told Dominic, she could wear it even after the wedding. No one would look at it and think it was a wedding dress. "Sure? I can't tell you the last time I wore a dress for any occasion," Victoria laughed. "You know, Rhea, I think you have the most beautiful laugh in the world, Dominic said, hugging her tightly. Oh, you stopped going through food and started singing praise songs when I was 14? You're not serious, are you? Laughed Victoria, snuggling up to him. It's not silly, you brat, smiled Dominique, to which she responded with a picture of vomit. Okay, why are you acting like this? He asked. Honestly? Asked Victoria, losing her smile. Yes, Dominic, honestly, he replied. Because I'm afraid that something's going to go wrong and mess things up, Victoria admitted. I'm afraid that I won't be able to handle it and let myself believe the damn thing. The whole thing could blow up in my face right in front of me, and I'd end up the world's biggest loser again, damn it. You can't be the biggest loser in the world, damn it, Dominic said, lifting her up and kissing her. Because I'm already taking that spot. I love you, Victoria whispered into his neck. There were few guests at their wedding. Victoria's mother and stepfather had sent a potluck as a gift, but did not show up for the event itself. Ms. Josephine, the nanny of Rihanna and her 3 children, and Bobby, Ms. Josephine's ex-boyfriend, were the only guests on Victoria's side. There was no one from Dominic's side. The reception was held in the back room of Boardwalker's restaurant. Dominic finally got to try their trout and home fries. The band playing at Centennial Walk had already finished their set, so a local DJ provided the music. Since there were as many kids as there were adults, he played some kid-friendly tunes. The wedding photographer took lots of shots of the kids bouncing around the small venue. Dominic considered it a temporary loss. Victoria was under 21 and couldn't go to casinos or nightclubs. But Victoria insisted that she wanted to honeymoon in Las Vegas. With a shrug and a "yes, dear," Dominic paid for airfare and booked a hotel. Rihanna was furious when she found out she wasn't going to Las Vegas with them and vowed to never speak to her mom or dad again. It only stopped when she got hungry and wanted a snack. On their first day in Las Vegas, Victoria saw a tattoo parlor and pulled Dominic into a small, clean room. Yes, miss? Smiled the attractive female tattoo artist. Dominic and Victoria walked out of the tattoo parlor. The third finger of their left hand now had wide yellow stripes bordered by black lines. The names Rhea and Dominic were cursive engraved on their wedding rings. For now, the tattoos were hidden under a spotless white ribbon and gauze bandage. See? See? Exclaimed Victoria enthusiastically. It's a forever thing. Oh, Dominic, we'll be together forever. On the 5th day, the day before they left, Dominic noticed an older man watching them. He instinctively stepped between Victoria and the man. The elderly man smiled broadly and walked over to them. Greenwood, I thought that was you, the man said. Rodeo? In Benhurst, right? Oh yeah, Dominic said, recognizing the man who had paid him for 2 bull rides. So, are you in town this time? The man asked. No, we're on our honeymoon, Dominic replied, pointing to Victoria. Oh, well, gosh darn it. Congratulations, the man said. I hear they have a bull here named Nevada Nightmare. You can get a ride for $25,000. 25, started to say Dominic. You won't do that. I know you, Dominic, Victoria objected firmly. Honey, what did Mrs. Michelle tell you? No more help, eh? Muttered Dominic. Mrs. Amelia Michelle, a state employee, informed Victoria that now that she was married, she was no longer eligible for food stamps, housing allowance, and free medicine for herself and her daughter. In other words, the system doesn't like married people, Dominic commented to the stone-faced clerk. Unmarried people, that's all right. But if you get married, it seems new rules are being put forward. Dominic, I don't care. If anything, we can sleep in the truck, Victoria pleaded. When is your next tournament? Asked Dominic to the older man. You still haven't changed. I hate you. Do you hear me? I hate you, yelled Victoria, slapping her husband's chest and arms. Few people paid attention to the commotion. The lobby of the casino and hotel were abuzz with cheers and clamor. Women booing the man who had lost all their savings was a common sight. In the arena tonight, the man said, pointing in the direction where the rodeo was being held. 7 o'clock. Monstro and El Diablo stepped aside, giving way to Nevada Nightmare. According to the man who had provided Dominic with the consent form he had signed and paid for admission, Nevada Nightmare had knocked down the last rider, crushing his pelvis. Before that, 12 people had tried to stay on the bull for longer than 5 seconds, but none had succeeded. Did you see one? He just popped out of the gate and Nevada literally threw him over his head. Bang! Right off the bat. The man grinned. 12? You'll be number 13 then? Remarked Victoria, turning to Dominic. Are you still going to do that? Number 13? You don't believe it? Asked Dominic as they headed in the other direction. Dominic, please, honey, don't do this, Victoria pleaded again. We don't need this so badly. Not today, we don't. What about tomorrow? Rihanna needs a dentist, Dominic reminded her. And dental bills aren't cheap. Oh, gringo, trying that again? Grinned George Garcia when he saw Dominic. No, replied Dominic, shaking his head. Not man enough for the Nevada Nightmare? Scoffed George. No, I said I'm not going to try, Dominic stated as he prepared to take his place on the bull's back. I'm going to do it. Over the loudspeaker, the name of the next contender for the Nevada Nightmare was announced. The crowd yelled and cheered for the bull, mocking the bravery of the contestant. Dominic's life flashed before his eyes. He couldn't boast of a good, happy life, but his last thoughts were of a beautiful young woman who said she loved him and a beautiful little daughter, almost 4 years old, who called him Daddy. Dominic got on the bull's back and threw himself into the fray. Ladies and gentlemen, it has happened, announced the announcer. The Nevada Nightmare has been defeated. Dominic Greenwood. In a flash, Dominic was against the wall, and the Nevada Nightmare hit it with a resounding thud, but to no avail. Another moment, and he could have hit a couple inches to the left or right and slammed into the wall again. The horn of the Nevada Nightmare precisely dug into the bone of Dominic's left ankle. He felt the men's hands on his shirt, then a searing, numbing pain in his ankle. His shirt ripped, and he somersaulted into the ring, where a bull was running frantically a few yards away. Dominic! Victoria shouted and tried to climb the wall. She attacked the 3 men with fury, who grabbed her and threw her to the dirt floor. The crowd cheered as Dominic was left lying unconscious on the ground. 2 riders managed to lasso the bull's head, but Nevada Nightmare lashed out, knocking the 2 riders off their horses. One of the rodeo clowns boldly stepped between Nevada Nightmare and Dominic's lifeless body. If you try that again, I'll kill you, Victoria sobbed as Dominic was laid in the ambulance. Damn it! Did they cut my shoe? Dominic asked indignantly, looking at the cast on his left foot. Thank God they didn't cut the whole foot off, Victoria muttered, sitting next to him in the hospital room. They were afraid it wouldn't be saved. Do you know how hard it is to walk in those shoes? Dominic continued to complain. Do you know how hard it is when someone loves you? Victoria said, wiping away her tears. Yes, Dominic agreed quietly. Yes, I know. Your wife tried to enter the arena, but was stopped, fortunately for Nevada Nightmare. An older man entered the room. You! Victoria hissed, full of hate. Hey, I'm here to take care of your man bills, the older man hurriedly reassured Victoria. And you wouldn't be here if you kept your mouth shut, Victoria shouted, clenching her small fists. Ma'am, this is a hospital, the obese nurse objected. Dominic had always tried to avoid medication, but this time he was grateful for the painkillers and muscle relaxants. They helped him endure the flight from Las Vegas to Colorado, as well as the long car ride home from the airport with Victoria. With Victoria's help, Rihanna managed to get Dominic's signature on the consent form. Victoria, frowning, added her own Ria right below Rihanna's signature. Dominique, what if something had happened to you? To us? To Rihanna? What would we do? Victoria began to cry, new tears rolling down her cheeks. She lowered herself onto him. See? This is what I'm talking about. I let myself believe, Let myself believe all this, hoping everything would be okay? Sobbed Victoria. And everything is just falling apart in front of my eyes. And what's next? I'm going to be a big loser again. A few days after returning from Las Vegas, Victoria and Rihanna sat at the kitchen table and colored Rihanna's new coloring book. Rihanna had made up a story about a pony, which she was happily coloring. Victoria encouraged her daughter's imagination by fleshing out the details and inspiring her. And then? What happens after you save all the butterflies? Victoria asked, at which point there was a sharp knock on the front door. We flew home and Daddy and you were happy to see us, Rihanna explained. Victoria made sure the door was securely locked, and only then yelled, "Who's there? Who is it?" "Homer Mitchell," a male voice responded. "I'm a private detective. Looking for Dominic Greenwood?" "What do you want with him?" "He won't be competing in these damn rodeos anymore," Victoria shouted, anger breaking through her voice. "No, ma'am. I'm a member of his family," Homer replied. "It would be easier for me if you would open the door." "Wait here," Victoria tossed back. "Who are you yelling at?" Dominic asked as Victoria burst into the bedroom. "I'm here, so it's not me." "Someone says he's from your family," Victoria snapped at him. "What do you want me to do with him?" "Damn, I was hoping they wouldn't find me here," Dominic sighed. "Oh well, let him come in. My family I know won't back down." Victoria opened the door and waved her head, letting Homer Mitchell inside. He entered clumsily, and under his weight the floor gave way, making a creaking sound. "Yeah, until 2:30, Homer offered. "That keto diet really works, but—" "What's wrong?" asked Dominic, waddling into the living room. "Rhea, did you make us some coffee?" 4th of July. I had a couple hot dogs, a couple beers," Homer admitted. Then just kept cheating. "I'll get back to it next week," and next week never came, Dominic agreed. "I'm Dominic Greenwood, and you are—" "Homer Mitchell. Seen you on TV?" Homer said, taking a seat on the small couch. "Sure, we saw each other we saw months ago." "Good," Dominic shrugged, sinking into the back of the chair. "Your family hired me to find you. Your father had cancer," Homer informed him, nodding gratefully as Victoria brought him a mug of coffee. "Good," Dominic muttered. "Thanks, Rhea." "I mean, man, you just disappeared off the face of the earth," Homer continued. "No, not really," Dominic said. "So, when I saw the shot of you riding 2 bulls at that rodeo, I went and asked your brother if that was you," Homer added. "I think it was Monster and El Diablo, something like that." "What kind of cancer?" asked Dominic. "Monstro and El Diablo, and he'll never do it again, you hear me?" Victoria slid off the kitchen table. "Oh, he had pancreatic cancer," replied Homer. "Richie, your brother? Said it couldn't have been you. You're terribly afraid of horses, so there's no way you'd try riding a bull." Dominic laughed a bitter laugh. Victoria looked up at him from the kitchen table. "It was Richie who was afraid of horses," Dominic scoffed. "Mr. Mitchell, I hope you shake the truth out of him for being such a lying asshole. He's the one who's afraid of horses, not me." "My daddy's a cowboy," Rihanna announced. "So are we good now?" smiled Homer at the girl. Rihanna agreed and went back to her coloring book. "But when did that accident in Las Vegas happen?" continued Homer. "Oh my God, did you see that? It looked like you were about to be turned into a hamburger. Anyway, your sister said it was you." "Wait, you said Big Bill had cancer. He had it." "Past tense?" asked Dominic, whose stomach knotted up. "Yes, sir. His funeral was held last Thursday," admitted Homer. "I'm sorry for your loss. Ma'am, may I ask you for another cup?" "No problem," Victoria said, rising to her feet. "So Big Bill is dead, is he?" asked Dominic quietly, holding out his mug to his wife. "Yes, sir, sorry," Homer admitted. "If Richie hadn't—" "By tricking his stupid ass, I would have been able to say goodbye to my father," said Dominic bitterly. "Yes, sir, it would seem so," Homer agreed. Again, I'm sorry for your loss. He was a good man. That's bullshit, snorted Dominic. I once heard a rig manager say, if you can't say anything nice about somebody, talk about Big Bill Greenwood. And Big Bill was an asshole, through and through. Dominic, Victoria firmly chided her husband. If Big Bill is gone, why did you have to come to me now? Asked Dominic. Your mother insisted, said Homer. Said you should come home and help run Try Greenwood. Try Greenwood? Asked Victoria. Communications with oil rigs, computers, medicine, explained Dominic. That dangerous? Asked Victoria, her small face hardening. I'd sit at a desk and move paper from the left side to the right side, Dominic said. But why isn't Richie running it? Yes, he is, said Homer. And according to your mother, he ran it into the ground. Because he has no idea what we do, Dominic thought. And he's too damn arrogant to ask anyone for help. Where's Try Greenwood? Asked Victoria. Is that in Kansas? Louisiana, honey, Dominic said. DeGard, Louisiana. When the Saints play the Broncos, don't expect me to root for the Saints, you hear me? Said Victoria. Wait a minute, wait 1 minute, laughed Dominic. You mean you tricked me into marrying a Broncos fan? Wait a minute, does that mean I married a Saints fan? Victoria smiled. But I should have known better. Only a Saints fan would be crazy enough to get on the crazy bull. Victoria kissed Rihanna on the top of her head and squeezed her daughter tightly. Mommy's sorry, Rihanna. She didn't know Daddy was rooting for the Saints, Victoria said. It's okay, Mom, Rihanna assured her mother. It's going to be okay. Both of you, be quiet, laughed Dominic. Mr. Mitchell, it will take me 5 or 6 weeks before I can drive again. I can drive you home, Homer offered. Mr. Mitchell, this is my home, Dominic said firmly. It may seem like a small trailer in the middle of nowhere to you, but to me, it's a palace compared to what awaits me in Louisiana. We'll be glad to see where I live, Homer agreed, glancing around the small but neat trailer. Thanking Victoria for the coffee, Homer Mitchell shook Dominic's hand and walked out of the trailer. Dominic walked to the door and watched the large man get into the large Cadillac. Before he could start the car, he was already talking on his cell phone. Sighing, Dominic closed the door. Rhea, it's time to get ready, Dominic told Victoria. As soon as he tells Big... Dominic felt tears coming. Homer Mitchell would never tell Big Bill anything. His father, the man Dominic had feared and hated for most of his life, was gone. Dominic will never know what last words his father might have said to him. Richie has robbed him of that. We're going to DeGard. Where did you say it was? Asked Victoria, putting her arms around his neck. DeGard, snorted Dominic. Okay, how long do I have to pack for? Asked Victoria. A couple weeks, I guess, replied Dominic. Dominic handled the bulky cast on his leg. Victoria was glad that he had taken over driving, since she didn't like to drive. Rihanna had many questions. Why were they going to Louisiana? Who lives there? Are there really alligators there? And would they be dangerous? They were given a comfortable bed in a cozy, clean motel in Falwell, Oklahoma. Rihanna loved the motel's pool and asked why they couldn't stay a few more days. The promise of another pool when they got to Louisiana didn't appease the girl. Does your mom have a pool too? Asked Victoria as Rihanna fell asleep to the truck's whisking motion. Oh my God, yes, Dominique replied. At the Waffle House restaurant in Lafayette, Louisiana, they were served a late lunch, early dinner. The waitress, staring at Victoria's many piercings, acted almost rude. My mom won't be thrilled, Dominic warned Victoria. Yeah, she'll have remarks about those rings. You think my mom won't notice? Shrugged Victoria. I'll tell her the same thing I tell mine. Don't like it? Don't look. Pulling off the I-10 freeway in DeGard, Louisiana, Victoria looked around the neighborhood. Dominic pointed out a few places that interested her. What is this place dead end? A club? Asked Victoria, seeing several luxury cars in front of a squat cinder block building. It's a club for gentlemen, Dominic replied. What about tricky tricks? asked Victoria. How do you know about that? Wondered Dominic. I worked there for a bit, Victoria admitted. Have you ever been there? Tricky tricks or dead end? Interjected Dominic. Either one, clarified Victoria. Well, dead end does have decent lunches, confirmed Dominic. Great, Victoria said, and watched with interest as Dominic turned onto Wells Street. Oh my God, wow, Dominic exclaimed as he saw 2 luxury cars parked in the driveway. Francesca always made Joseph, their servant, park his Mercedes-Benz in the garage, while Big Bill preferred to store his extended cab pickup truck there as well. The presence of both cars on the street meant that either Monica or Richie, or both, were at the Greenwoods' house. These cars couldn't belong to Francesca's friends. Big Bill had alienated all potential friends. Well, we can get this shit over with, Dominic said as he opened the car door. Dominic's stomach clenched as he helped Victoria out of the car and then removed Rihanna from her car seat. All of his fears and doubts took over his thoughts again. Dominic had never doubted Victoria's loyalty. She loved him, and that had been evident throughout the entire time they had known each other. Even being in remote Wyoming, Dominic had never doubted her loyalty. Julie, Terry, Angela, and Lynn Mindy all professed their love for Dominic. They made plans with him for the future. But Richie could easily take Dominic's love away from any of these girls, as if he snapped his fingers. Look, am I my brother, Richie? Said Dominic, pulling Rihanna out of the truck. Where's the pool? Asked Rihanna, not letting Dominic finish his thought. It's not bath time, honey, Victoria replied, taking the girl from Dominic. He's a handsome guy, remarked Dominique, leaning on his cane. So, I've met handsome guys, Victoria replied, shrugging her shoulders. But none of them made me feel the way you do. Keep telling yourself the same thing, Dominic said as they headed down the path. What do you mean? Asked Victoria. Rhea, do you know how afraid I am to trust myself? Asked Dominic. Yes, agreed Victoria. When it comes to Richie, I let myself confide, and it always ends up being something I have to wait it out, Dominic admitted. Oh, Victoria said simply. They moved toward the door. As they walked up the steps, Victoria glanced at Dominic. You always tell me this isn't going to blow up in my face, don't you? She asked. Dominic nodded and stepped onto the next step. And you can never tell me it won't blow up like it always does? Continued Victoria, climbing the 3rd step. Dominic stopped in front of a dark wooden door. You know I can't make it not blow up in your face, Victoria replied. We just have to do it, finish it, and hope for the best. Honey, there's nothing else to do. Dominic leaned over and kissed Victoria. Then he pressed the button. They heard the call echo. Yes? Richie's voice reached them through the doorbell speaker. It's Dominic, he replied, tensely anticipating the conversation. Oh, finally showed up? After Dad died and left, Richie muttered mockingly. I would have been here sooner if you weren't such a rascal, growled Dominic in response. Richie, who's at your door? Intervened the voice of Dominic's mother. Mom, it's me, Dominic, he replied. And I have... Dominic? Oh, Dominic, exclaimed Francesca. A moment later, the door swung open. Francesca, looking her 56 years old, rushed to embrace her son. However, her joy was cut short when she saw Victoria and Rihanna. Who are these people, Dominic? Inquired Francesca sternly. Mom, this is Victoria, my wife, Dominic said. And this is Rihanna, our daughter. Wife? You? Oh, son, are you talking nonsense? You didn't marry her in a real marriage, did you? Got Francesca angry. You know what? That's enough, try. Greenwood, goodbye, said Dominic decisively. Goodbye, Mom. Enjoy your bankruptcy. Francesca stared at them in silence, not believing her eyes, until Dominic and his family turned and walked away. Francesca ordered sternly, Dominic Greenwood, come back here. Let him go, Mom, smirked Richie mockingly. Once a loser, always a loser. You want to come here and say that to my face? Called out Dominic to him. What? Never, laughed Richie, walking past Francesca. I can kick ass any day, anytime, anywhere. And with that broken leg, you're not worth... Victoria put her arm around Rihanna, turning her head away from the arguing men. Her smile was full of satisfaction. Richie was certainly handsome, but in a repulsive way somehow. It was a smirk she knew well from the men who paid her at Cunning Stunts nightclub. Arrogant, spoiled men who never worked honestly. If their moms took American Express away from them, they wouldn't be able to survive. Dominic, her husband, knew labor. He was willing to risk his life and health to provide his wife and daughter with what they needed. Richie might have considered himself the best. Dominic could consider Richie a failure. Victoria knew who the better man really was. That person's name was on her finger. Dominic punched Richie hard in the face. Richie scrambled off the ground and fell on his back, his head hitting the walkway. Did you have something to say? Smirked Dominique. But I want to go to the pool, complained Rihanna. Goodbye, Mom, proclaimed Dominic. When you apologize to my wife for your actions... Dominic? Is that Dominic? Exclaimed Monica, making her way through the crowd. She rushed to her brother and Dominic struggled to keep his balance as she embraced him and kissed him on the lips. Oh my God, oh Dominic! Exclaimed Monica, weeping for joy. Victoria, muttered Dominic in a muffled voice. This is my sister, Monica, this is Victoria, my wife, and the little doll with us is our daughter, Rihanna. Oh my God, I'm your aunt. Hi, I'm Aunt Monica, exclaimed Monica, turning to Rihanna. Victoria, it's so nice to meet you. Hi, Rihanna, that's such a beautiful name you have, and you're such a beautiful girl. Damn bastard, you hit me, wheezed Richie through bloody lips. Richie tore away. Dominic gave way to him and let Richie crash into the pickup truck. Then he carefully placed his right foot on Richie's bent knee. I want to see the pool, Rihanna said to Monica. Can I show it to her? Asked Monica to Victoria. It's right in the backyard. The sound of a police siren drowned out Richie's screams. Dominic raised both hands to show the police officers that he was unarmed except for his cane. I'm going to call Carlos Pellice now, Francesca announced to Dominic. Good, nodded Dominic. Good evening, officers. It's just a misunderstanding, officers, Francesca said, holding the phone to her ear. These are my two sons. Are you sure, ma'am? The older officer asked, looking at Richie, who was squirming on the ground. Yes, sir, Francesca replied. Lieutenant Hebert. You know how it is? One time he opens his mouth and the next time he closes it for him. Mom, Rihanna wants to see the pool, Monica said, holding the girl in her arms. You know where it is? Francesca replied. I had cousins like that, agreed Lieutenant Stephen Hebert. Sir, can you stand up? Damn bastard, yelled Richie, his speech slurred. Officer, I want to sue him. Really, Richie? Interrupted Minnie. You're the one who started it. Dominic was leaving. You should have just shut your mouth and stayed out of it. Francesca pointed to the front of the house where the security camera was located. Richie tried to stand up, leaning on Dominic's pickup truck for support. Both police officers turned toward the camera. Richie tried to attack Dominic, but Dominic deftly dodged, and Richie fell to the ground again, groaning in pain. Francesca shook her head, turning to Richie. Richie, maybe you should leave. I think you've done enough today, haven't you? Mom, I can't even walk properly, Richie protested, pressing his hand to his right knee. But energy is where all the problems start, isn't it? Francesca said, turning away from Richie. Madam, Francesca turned to Victoria. I owe you an apology. Just saying I'm sorry isn't enough. I hope you are a bigger woman than I am and will accept my sincere apology. Yes, ma'am, Victoria agreed, glancing at Dominique. Come on, Monica is keeping your child outside, Francesca announced. No, Carlos, it's a false alarm. You don't need to intervene this time. Thank you. Have a nice evening. Bastard, I'm going to find you and kill you. You hear me? Richie threatened Dominic. Try it, boy, laughed Dominic, following his mother and wife. Aunt Monica says you're my grandmother, informed Rihanna to Francesca as the trio walked out into the backyard. Well, yeah, I guess so, Francesca replied, frowning. Mom, look at the pool, Rihanna marveled. I see it, Victoria confirmed, looking at the structure that Big Bill had installed in his backyard. In the center of the Olympic pool was a C-shaped concrete pad. 5 fountains threw jets up to 10 feet high, creating a spray around the letter C. My God, it really is as ugly as you said, Victoria whispered to her husband. Grandma, can I go swimming? Rihanna asked. If your mom lets me, replied Francesca, still embarrassed that the little stranger was calling her grandma. Go ahead, we'll be watching you, Victoria smiled. With those words, Rihanna took off her Mickey Mouse t-shirt and pink shorts. Leaving her in just her panties, she hurried to the pool. Ugh! Victoria laughed as she saw Rihanna jump into the water. Dominique, does that baby have a tattoo? Francesca shrieked in surprise as she noticed the temporary rose tattoo on the girl's back. No, Mom, it's a temporary tattoo, Dominique explained. She saw mine and wanted one, Victoria added, so I bought her some stickers. You have? Dominique, please tell me you don't have such disgusting things, Francesca insisted. And tell me you don't have anything like that, whatever it's called. Piercings? Dominic asked. No, I have only one tattoo. Oh, Dominic, really? Do you have any idea how difficult it would be to remove it? Francesca exclaimed thoughtfully. Well, I don't plan on removing it ever. Dominic shrugged, looking at the ring finger of his left hand. Wow. Look, Rhea, it's already reached the fountains. Monica was single, and when Dominic asked her who the father of her child was, she blushed thickly and refused to answer. Dominique, Joseph has your old room ready, Francesca announced as Monica tried to change the topic of conversation from her pregnancy to how Dominique rode bulls. And Victoria and Rihanna will be at my place. Mom, we're married, Dominic said firmly, so Rihanna and I will be sharing a room. Well, I thought Victoria would be more comfortable, Francesca began. No, you just decided that you would be more comfortable with Rihanna in a different room than with me, Dominic replied. But don't worry about that, Mom. We'll stay at the D-Guard Hotel, okay? Do they have a pool? Rihanna asked. No, Dominique, please don't go, Francesca pleaded. Francesca was outraged when Dominic informed her that he hadn't come to Big Bill's final days and funeral because of the false information provided by Richie to Homer Mitchell. Monica reluctantly confirmed Dominic's words. Francesca frowned, then meekly shook her head. Upstairs, Dominic searched the 2 guest rooms for pillows. Spreading them out on the floor, he made a comfortable bed for Rihanna. After bathing, the baby fell soundly asleep, and Victoria laid her down on the makeshift bed. After his father's death, Richie appointed himself Chief Operating Officer, although he could not remove Francesca from her position as CEO of Tricarter Incorporated. Monica had taken accounting courses at the University of Louisiana at DeGard. Big Bill had appointed her CFO, although he had put Rick Blanchard in charge of accounting 2 years earlier. As CEO of Tricarter Incorporated, Francesca called an emergency board meeting for the Monday after Dominic arrived in DeGard. Richie was outraged, but had no choice but to show up to the meeting. His face was swollen, and he was pacing with difficulty when he stormed into the boardroom. Richie became furious when Francesca calmly asked him for a report on the day-to-day operations of Greenwood Incorporated. Monica, as CFO, quickly presented the current situation and projected losses if they continued on their current trajectory. Rick Blanchard was doing his job beautifully. Francesca turned to Richie. Richie? What? Richie growled, looking hatefully at the grinning Dominic. 18 minutes ago, I asked you for an operations report. You had plenty of time to prepare it. Where is it? Francesca asked sharply. You think I'm going to pull it out of my ass? I'll bring it to the next board meeting, snapped Richie. Good. Then I move that we adjourn the meeting. All those in favor? Francesca asked. Aye, agreed Richie and Monica. Against? Francesca asked. No, he's the COO. He should be in charge of day-to-day operations, stated Dominic. Aye, the meeting is adjourned, said Francesca. I now declare the next business meeting open. What? Richie exclaimed, sinking back into his chair. So, Richie, where are the reports? Francesca repeated. I said I'd bring them to the next meeting, Richie muttered. And that's the next meeting, said Francesca. Richie, it's not hard. Call your assistant and have her print out the reports and bring them here. I'll be back, Richie said, getting up. Shortly after limping out of the luxurious conference room, Richie returned, a frown on his handsome face. Moments after his return, Mindy Duran walked in with papers in her hands. The beautiful blonde hesitated when she saw Dominic at the table. Her mouth opened and closed for a moment. These are the reports you asked for, Mr. Greenwood, Mindy whispered, and her eyes filled with tears as she turned away from Dominic. Thank you, Mindy, Richie said, looking at Dominic with a triumphant grin. Looking through the papers Mindy had provided, Dominic couldn't figure out exactly what he was reading. When he admitted as much, Richie gloatingly remarked that Dominic was obviously too stupid to understand the complexities of running a multi-million-dollar industry. Then explain it to me, Einstein, Dominic demanded. Explain how this multi-million-dollar industry manages to lose money while providing the same services it always has. Richie confused an already complicated situation with his explanation. Ms. Duran, come in, please, Dominic said into the intercom. Why? What do you need her for? Richie demanded. Ms. Duran has a bachelor's degree in business administration, Dominic informed him. Obviously, you have no idea what is written here. Perhaps your assistant can shed some light on the matter. Mindy was unable to clarify the situation. When Dominic asked who had implemented certain procedures, Mindy silently pointed to Richie. And you didn't point out that this is unnecessary repetition? Dominic sighed. Mindy, Ms. Duran, I know you're smarter than that. I tried, Dominic, snorted Mindy. The name Miss Duran is Mr. Greenwood, Dominic corrected her coldly. Yes, sir, Mr. Greenwood, Mindy gasped, her eyes filling with tears again. I tried to tell Richie, but he... You can go now, Ms. Duran, Dominic cut him off. I'm not going to get fired, am I? Mindy asked, tears streaming down her cheeks. If I was sure we wouldn't be sued for millions of dollars for sexual harassment, I would fire you for gross incompetence, Dominic stated. But no, Ms. Duran, you will not be fired. That's the end of it. You see, Mom, half the problem is that your employees have no idea what they're supposed to be doing. That mouthy oaf has so messed up the corporate and management structure that no one knows who's in charge of what anymore, Dominic said, pointing at Richie. There's no clear chain of command. As if you could do anything better, Richie snapped back. Rihanna can do better than you, Dominic smirked. I move that Richie step down as COO, Francesca said. All in favor? Aye, Dominic and Monica immediately echoed. All opposed? Francesca asked, and immediately declared, all in favor. All those in favor of Dominic becoming the new COO? Dominic was ushered into Richie's office. He had to deal with months of nonsensical policies and duplicate edicts. After only an hour of trying to make sense of the chaos, Dominic was already grateful for the 5th bottle of St. Elizabeth, superior whiskey that Richie had hidden in the bottom drawer of his desk. Richie was promoted to the position of sales manager. To the employees of Tricarter Incorporated, this was presented as a promotion. 3 of the 5 salesmen quit immediately. The fact that his ex-girlfriend, Mindy Duran, was working alongside him was unpleasant for Dominic. Victoria, of course, didn't like her man working in the same office as his ex. So Monique and Dominic switched assistants. The arrival of a grandchild was a blessing for Francesca. However, she still had a hard time getting used to Victoria's tattoos and piercings. Joseph, their devoted English servant, enjoyed spending time with both child and daughter-in-law. Victoria often emerged from Dominique's old bedroom in a bikini and flip-flops. Rihanna loved to recite nursery rhymes to Joseph. "Oh, I'm sure the spider was very upset when the rain washed him away, wasn't he?" Joseph asked. "Yeah, but then the sun dried up all the rain, so it's okay," said Rihanna. Victoria and Rihanna became as tanned as berries, spending time by the pool or in the water. Rihanna could put her head underwater and swim a few strokes. Her goal was to swim the entire pool underwater. After a full day of work trashing Richie's mistakes, Dominic hated coming home. His mother complained about Victoria, and Victoria complained about his mother. The house that was supposed to be a refuge became another job for him. "Mom, how much dividends am I entitled to?" asked Dominic finally. I don't know. You'd better ask Monica." "Why?" wondered Francesca. "Because I'm losing the rest of my mind," Dominic admitted. "Between you, Rhea, and Try Greenwood, I'm about to lose the last shreds of sanity." Monica calculated that since the day Dominic had left Mindy and returned to Kansas, and given that Richie had been paying himself under the guise of business expenses, Dominic could claim $2 million. Dominic called Gold Standard Realtors and made an appointment with Trinity Doucet to discuss the sale of the house. "The requirements? A fence around the backyard and an in-ground pool," Dominic said. "You know, those things can be installed after you buy the house," remarked Whitney, his assistant. "Not when you have a 4-year-old who wants to swim right now," Dominic smiled. "And a wife who's allergic to clothes," he added, smiling even wider. Trinity looked like a beach ball with her arms. Her oversized glasses made her eyes look huge, and Dominic couldn't help but think of the character Marcy from the Peanuts comics as he and Victoria and Rihanna got into Trinity's minivan. They found the perfect house on Walpin Street, 3 blocks from Francesca's house. The house had 5 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms, a large kitchen, and a spacious family room. But most importantly, there was a large pool with a water slide and an 8-foot wooden fence around the perimeter of the backyard. Dominic, recognizing that it might be a mistake, handed Victoria an American Express card and told her that she could decorate their home as she saw fit. After all, the girl had many: metal pieces stuck into various parts of her body and tattoos adorning her skin. "Daddy, I have a forceps bed," squeaked Rihanna excitedly as Whitney handed her the phone. "A pinch bed? What's that?" asked Dominic, but Rihanna had already ended the conversation. "A princess bed," Victoria explained as Dominic returned home to his mother. "O'Neill said it will all be delivered and installed on the 20th. But don't worry, Grandma. You can come and see my new house," Rihanna assured Francesca. "I can?" Francesca smiled at the girl. "Yep, and you can even sleep there." "I have a princess bed," Rihanna added excitedly. "Princesses," Dominique corrected, smiling. "Because you're my little princess." On the morning of the 20th, Dominic kissed his mother and thanked her for letting them stay with her. He also thanked Joseph for his service and then headed out for another day of work. 5:30. Dominic muttered to Whitney as he left the office in the afternoon. "Let's see what my Rhea has in store for us." Dominic imagined bulky micro-suede garments in garish colors and chrome accessories that would have been more appropriate for a trailer like the one Victoria and Rihanna had lived in when he first met them. He hadn't expected the muted leather, heavy woodwork, and polished brass that greeted him. Victoria searched him with her eyes, trying to gauge his reaction. "I was trying to create a cozy, welcoming look," Victoria finally spoke, unable to tolerate the silence any longer. "Rhea, I really like it," Dominic stammered when he saw the table set Victoria had placed in their dining room. "You even have a sideboard?" "Yes, and look," Victoria enthused, pulling out a drawer. If we ever buy, silverware? I mean, real silverware like your mom's, but not with that pattern. I hate that pattern." The princess bed, low dresser, toy chest, and small desk were all perfect for a 4-year-old girl. Dominic's eyes moistened a little at the thought of the day when Rihanna would decide she was too big for the bed. Another surprise was their own bedroom. Victoria's trailer had a full-size mattress and box spring on a simple frame, with no headboard. Clothes were stored in a shabby dresser made of pressed cardboard, and the mirror on the back of the door dangled every time it was opened, with one hook badly warped. Now in the new bedroom, a queen bed of cast iron awaited them. Black lacquered wood nightstands were adorned with candle-shaped lamps. A black lacquered closet was provided for him, a vanity with an upholstered cast-iron stool for her. Victoria's clothes were now stored in a black lacquered low dresser. "The mattress is a marvel," Victoria enthused. "When I was lying on it at O'Neill's, I almost said, 'Guys, wake me up in a couple hours.' Please tell me you were wearing clothes when the delivery guys arrived," Dominic asked. "I was wearing a tank top. What do you take me for?" Victoria muttered. "Now come on, I've got a roast in the slow cooker." The doorbell rang. "Who is it?" Dominic asked. "Daddy, have you seen my princess bed?" squeaked Rihanna, letting her grandmother into their new home. "Yes, of course. It's perfect for you, isn't it?" "Hi, Mom," agreed Dominique. "Come on, Grandma, you have to see this," Rihanna called out, running toward the stairs. "Hi, Victoria," Francesca called out as she approached the stairs. "Hi, Francesca," Victoria called back. "Are you staying for dinner?" "No, Joseph's rib roast is just about ready," Francesca said. "But thank you for inviting me." "Only because I knew you'd say no," Victoria admitted to Dominic. Rihanna resented having to wait 30 minutes after dinner before she could swim in the new pool. Dominic threatened to put her in a corner where she would have to sit quietly until those 30 minutes were up. Victoria threatened to flog her if Rihanna didn't stop fussing. Another surprise was the street furniture. Victoria had chosen teak and cast iron pieces, including 2 chaise lounges, one of which was shaded by a large umbrella. "I thought the last thing you needed was more sun," Victoria said, when Rihanna showed her daddy that she could climb a tall ladder and roll down into the pool. "Wow!" Dominic applauded Rihanna's bravery. Leaning back in the shade and his naked wife on her chaise lounge next to him, Dominic watched their 4-year-old daughter bravely climb the tall ladder and slide into the pool. He watched her swim across the pool to ask if he'd seen her. "No, I know I was nowhere near as brave when I was 4, Dominic told Victoria. "Yeah, but she doesn't have Richie constantly telling her she can't do it. She doesn't have Richie constantly messing things up and making sure she can't do it," Dominic thought, as Rihanna wanted to try jumping in the water. "So, are you almost done with the day-to-day stuff?" Victoria asked, interrupting his thoughts. "I know you don't like hearing about it, but thank God Mindy saved every single one of Richie's letters," Dominic said. "Don't. Never. Don't ever say that fool's name again," Victoria snapped at him, clapping her hands as Rihanna dared to jump into the pool from the diving board. "From now on, just say, 'that fool.'" "Yeah, and if that fool hadn't gotten stupid and gone after Richie, we never would have met," Dominic reminded Victoria. "Daddy, did you see me?" shouted Rihanna from the stairs. "Of course I have. Can we ever get you out of the pool?" Dominic snapped back. Rihanna was really worried when she had to take a bath. After all, she was swimming in a pool, and that certainly counted as bathing. "Honey, just because you were in the pool, we were able to take a bath." Dominic smiled. He and Victoria and Rihanna then knelt next to the princess's bed and said a prayer. Dominic pointed to the nightlight, noted that the bathroom light was on, and said she should be safe and sound. "Come on, Daddy." Victoria smiled, dropping her bikini to the floor. "I asked them to tighten the bolts on our bed tighter. Let's see if we can loosen it." The O'Neill's men did a good job. The bed hardly creaked at all when Dominique and Victoria made love. Victoria and Dominic made a lot of noise, but the bed didn't. "Damn it, Rhea." "Jesus," Dominic complained, feeling a bite mark on his shoulder. "Oh, I'm sorry, Daddy. I got a little carried away," Victoria giggled, cleaning the wound with hydrogen peroxide. Are you going to spank me? Did I misbehave? Victoria cried out as Dominic gave her a stinging spank on her buttock. She turned and kissed him. Do it again, she whispered hoarsely. Dominic looked at Victoria's hands. The short nails had light pink polish on them, and none of them were nibbled to the point of bleeding. Did you stop biting your nails? He asked. The day we had to take you to the hospital, Victoria admitted. I told God that if he didn't take you, I would stop biting my nails, I wouldn't cut myself, I wouldn't get any more piercings, and… Thank you, Rhea, Dominic said, and kissed the top of her head. When are you getting that stupid cast off? Asked Victoria, nudging him with her foot. Next week. Unless, of course, my wife kicks it, Dominic joked, turning off the lights again. A few days later, after moving into their new home, Victoria and Rihanna were swimming in the pool. Victoria looked up as Richie entered the backyard, striding sprawlingly despite his obvious limp. She glanced at the doors to the back atrium. They were closed. Apparently, Richie had climbed over the gate she'd locked after the O'Neill crew had installed the street furniture. You have to leave, immediately, Victoria shouted from the pool. You're trespassing. What? We're family. Richie smiled his easy, seductive smile. We're not family, Victoria declared. You may be my husband's brother, but you and I are not family. Richie lowered himself into Dominique's chaise lounge and smirked. Victoria pulled her daughter to her and whispered in her ear. Go inside. My purse is on the breakfast table, she said urgently. Get my cell phone out of my purse. Number 2, you know what number 2 is. Press the number 2 and tell Daddy that Uncle Richie is here. Then stay inside and wait for Daddy. Okay, Mommy, Rihanna replied and climbed the stairs. Number 2, I'm doing it. Hey, where's she going? Asked Richie as Rihanna ran past him to the atrium doors. Said she needed number 2, Victoria replied as she headed up the stairs. So, little Richie, why are you here? You know my husband doesn't want you here. It's Richie, he snarled, his gaze fixed on Victoria's bald pussy. Oh? I thought that if your daddy was Big Bill, you should be called Little Richie, Victoria grinned, pulling her bikini bottoms down, bikini over her legs. Richie smiled as Victoria pulled up her bikini top. You don't have to get dressed on my account. No, little Richie, Victoria snapped back. I'm only dressing up because you're here. It's Richie, he said, voice becoming firm. Of course it is, Victoria replied, making sure she was standing between Richie and the house. I mean, you'll just take it off in a couple minutes, Richie muttered. You know you want me. Dominic, you're going to want a real man after him. Oh? Victoria laughed. And why would I want you, little Richie, when you say I want a real man? Why do I need you? All of Dominic's girlfriends, every single one of them, have been after me. Richie smirked and grabbed his pants. Yeah, I was just about to ask you that, Victoria grinned. Is this some sort of latent homosexuality on your part? It's Richie, he snapped back, not little Richie. Not what Mindy said, Victoria muttered, making sure Rihanna was still in the house. She turned and grinned at Richie, who had turned sideways on the chaise lounge. She made sure she was standing between him and the house. Her daughter was inside, and this monster wasn't going to get any closer to her. Victoria burst out laughing. She shook her head and scoffed at Richie. She was the cherry, wasn't she? Is that what she told you? Teased Victoria. Men are so stupid, I swear. I've had enough, shouted Richie, standing up. Richie threw a punch at Victoria, breaking her nose. She staggered, but kept herself from falling. Richie, that's enough, Francesca said firmly. Men shouldn't hit women. But she… Richie started to justify himself to his mother, but was quickly silenced. Victoria, darling, oh my God, he… Francesca exclaimed when she saw her sister-in-law's bloodied face. The police are on their way, Mrs. Greenwood, Joseph intervened. Give me one reason why I shouldn't blow your fucking brains all over the place, Dominic growled, holding a large .357 caliber pistol pointed at Richie. Because I want the father of my child with me in the delivery room, not in jail, Victoria sobbed, letting the fear she had felt for the last 10 minutes come out. They heard the sound of a siren. Richie was trying to find an escape route. Francesca pushed him in the back, and he sank heavily onto Dominique's chaise lounge. "Mommy, I did it!" Rihanna exclaimed. "You sure did, sweetheart," Dominic encouraged her. "Francesca, how did you know to come here?" Victoria asked, lowering herself onto her chaise lounge. "My granddaughter called me and told me that her mom needed me as urgently as possible, even faster than the gingerbread man," Francesca replied, squeezing the woman's hand. "Joseph, call an ambulance." "I already have, Mrs. Greenwood," Joseph confirmed. "And yes, I want to sue him." Victoria turned to Francesca with a sob. "I know it's your son, but no son of mine would ever hit a woman," Francesca replied sharply, giving Richie a scornful look. "Wait a minute," Dominic said as the senior police officer read Richie his rights. "Ria, you said—" "I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure you got me knocked up." Victoria grinned, despite the incredible agony she was having to endure with a broken nose. "You're married," Francesca said with a note of reproach. "Married women get pregnant. Now Monica is knocked up." "I didn't realize the difference before," Victoria smiled at her mother-in-law. "Well, now you know," she added, smiling at Francesca. For being such a brave little girl, Rihanna was allowed to ride in the ambulance with her mom and dad. Joseph and Francesca followed them to the hospital. In the emergency room, a male nurse glared angrily at Dominic as he tended to Victoria, wiping blood from her face. Victoria assured the nurse that her broken nose wasn't from Dominic. She fainted as the doctor set her nose right. Rihanna offered Dominic a kiss to comfort him. "Rihanna, sometimes it takes a lot more than a kiss," Dominic replied. "Joseph will get your old room ready," Francesca told Dominic and Victoria as they waited for Joseph to bring the Mercedes-Benz. "Honey, you just won't be able to cook, clean, and watch the little girl, so you're going to stay with me until you're ready to come home." "Looks like your mom is starting to like me," Victoria whispered to Dominic. "Apparently she is," Dominic agreed. "Those pills they gave me? They're really great," Victoria said, leaning heavily on him. "Yeah?" Dominic smiled as Victoria started humming under her breath.